This 9-inch housing is an aftermarket thing from America. This pilot area through here is 150 thou small. The spider only just makes it down past the chamfer.
There's probably a bit of elastic there to hold it on.
To help it, but it is tight in now. I've Loctited that in. But why do they cut all this out? They've only got the wall thickness through here is about a 1/16 of an inch, 1.5 mil. You can see. So
they're cracking the
that's where they're prone to failure. They must send out to Australia all their rejected manufactured shit, these Americans. They wouldn't be selling this to any American with half a fucking brain. They'd just say, we're not taking that. Fucking fuck it off. Not all the ratios require big amounts like that. That's too much. I've ground and filed flats on there to clear the crown wheel, but they don't get anywhere near a 1/16 of an inch, asking for trouble. You've got the 3 1/16. He bought this from that, I think that bloke in Sydney, what's he called, Speedmaster? That's a Speedmaster carrier. They're fucking rubbish, all this. Might as well get a standard housing.
You see, the cracks in there.
They're prone to cracking through here, these pilot bearings. It's a weakness of these 9 inches. Because the bearings are so close together, there's only a 450 thou. 450 thou washer between these. This is a slip-on bearing. That takes an enormous radial load, that part. These two bearings, it takes the more load, the majority of the load of the pilot, of the pinion. These slacken off slightly in the preload, all the radial load's on that. I should make one that's got a bolt-on steel part here, dowelled on, so that you can take it off. When that breaks, a whole lot gets thrown in the rubbish tin, the scrapyard. But that's annoying how they've made that too short. 150 thou, 3.5 mil roughly.
What do you mean too short?
Well, the spider only just gets past the chamfer. This should have been deeper. I think there's plenty of clearance between there and there. When we get it together, we'll find out. But, yeah, to go to all that trouble making a housing, and the weakest part of the design is this very pilot, which they mill or machine a big cavity out, which nearly breaks through into the diameter. They're off their head. I reckon they made it to the fucking moon. Fucking kidding. I can't believe it.
As if they went to the moon.
The critics. No bolts for this. And no O-ring on it. What have they done here? This crown wheel must come close to there, you see. Anyway, Loctite those studs in there. I'll chase up this O-ring. 5 inch this. By 3, by 1/8, I think. I'll get some O-rings, got the other seal, get that crown wheel on there, slam the bearings on this fucking LED. We can at least get it together and get a mark.
Yeah.
But just curious to see. The other thing, a lot of these yokes, that protrudes through here, but in this case it doesn't, because I've measured it.
Well, the spline's too long and the nut bottom's out.
Well, I measured the distance there and the distance there. That's further away than what that gap is, so I'm pretty sure we're going to be safe there. Sometimes you've got to put a machine. Sometimes you've got to machine a little bit away off there so that the washer doesn't foul. All that shit, all unnecessary. So anyway,
they made the weakest part weaker by doing that.
Call themselves great engineers. Gotta be fucking kidding. So, what we've got to do,
Going.
we're just putting the timing mark on there, which will grind on, because the mark's not too bad in that position. Even these don't have any timing marks, you never know where the thing's been lapped. You keep on telling these pricks, these Dago Italians. He's dumbfounded. I showed him in his workshop. I said, see that? On the bench here, I put a crown wheel in a pin. I said, after 3.5. I said, see, after a certain amount of revs, it keeps on going in the same tooth. That's why you've got to put timing marks on. You'll have the advantage against the people that don't. Anyway, because it's not all that bad, that mark, we'll try it another 2 or 3 thou into mesh.
Did you start putting timing marks on the gears?
I did for a while, but then they just forgot about it. Now, you can see that this crown wheel comes nowhere near. Sit down in here, have a look. Put the light in there. Do you think you need the light? The crown wheel clears the pilot by miles, not even touching where the casting would be, isn't it?
Yeah.
So why do they mill all that shit away, taking all the strength out of the vital area?
Yeah.
It's how dumb they are.
Yeah.
As I say, they offload all their fucking mistakes to here.
Yeah.
That's all they do. There. 916. Let's look at it. What happened to the 916th I had on this bench? Stop putting it down.
You're going to take it into mesh or out of mesh? Into mesh tooth.
Mesh, there we go. Oh, the big heads like the
Come into
goats.
mesh tooth now. There, it's touching there. Needs to come into mesh. No, I'll stop this. Oh, it's the video, yeah?
That's right. Hey, it's got some tension on the bearing. Could be a little bit more. So we can easily set the preload. What I'll do, I'll just take the one off there. It's not bad. So one bloke on the YouTube I see, he's getting the mark off it without these even being tight. That's all right. He got the mark without, and then setting the backlash without these being tight. Then he starts tightening them. Doesn't check the mark again. Then he starts to put the locks on. He goes, oh, this one's a little bit, wants to go around a bit. So he gets his tool and he brings it around 1/4 of an inch and he puts that lock on. He's doing a Toyota Land Cruiser, this bloke. He got all this bullshit up on the diff, dial indicators, and he's going, oh, the dial's down more. So I always give it another one notch. And now put the indicator this side. And I'll do that the same to that one too. You got they're off their head, fair income. It's set right now, so you put centre punch marks. See, there's a mark there. I had it top dead centre. So that one just fractionally passed by 5 mil. That one's top dead centre. We know we're in the right spot. I'll go and get this
Grinder. See, when there's certain ratios need to be timed, and these people that make these aftermarket gears don't time them for some reason. So you got to put a line because so it's timed. See how he's marked there? You see how he's marked in there, that tooth with that yellow mark? See the yellow mark? I can get the camera right there. That yellow mark there, that tooth goes into that tooth. Because it's not timed, this ratio is a non-hunting gear set. Because of the ratio, certain teeth will only ever meet certain teeth on the crown wheel. All these teeth here will never meet all the teeth. Only certain teeth always meet certain teeth because of the ratio. So, it's always good to get a grinder and grind a line there and grind a little line in there so it's timed and it's marked. So when somebody reconditions it in the future, they can always put the gears back in the same position. Because if you don't, you could get a whine.
Well, remember I mentioned to you that this was about 150 thou short of width to a standard Ford made one. Well, here's a 4.2 mil drill, which is 165 thou. You can see that that goes in there. Well, why not make that longer so that the spider, the locking spider, or one-way circlip, will have plenty of depth to go down into it. So they made that wrong. They made this wrong. The crown wheel doesn't even touch any of this. It doesn't even go past that, the line. You can see the faults. And you're making hundreds and hundreds of these, or thousands, and putting that bullshit in there. But anyway, that's what I reckon they do. They offload all this inferior shit to Australia. They won't use it in their own workshops over there.
No.
These should be all Loctited in when you get them, so that when they put them in the machining centre, they're all... you see, you can feel a slight difference in that one. They're virtually like dowels, these. Whereas the original ones, they've got a bit of clearance. They're floating, so they pick up the true diameter and even the thread. All that neat fit there is all unnecessary. You should have 10 thou clearance or something, that. We've Loctite. We've changed a few of these, as you know, to see if they'll go a bit easier. You tap them on slightly with a hammer. But what can you do? What can you do? Take these out and start machining them off. It's probably the best thing to do. But,
I don't understand why they make this stuff like this for. What are they thinking?
well, the engines are all a neat fit like that, and they're all bored out and they're all numbered, you see. The studs, or they got studs. All when you buy an engine block, they're all fitted tight, and they doesn't come finger tight. That you got to Loctite them in. But anyway, so all this is marked now, but centre punch mark here where the thread of adjusters go. See the couple of dots there. And the other one's got a dot over this side. We know the preload's right because we spun it without the pinion being in there. So we just got to, when the seal comes, we just got to put the spacer in between there and the seal and chuck it all together. We'll take this all out of there and grind timing marks on this. Just look, I've got the 9/16 here, because we know the mark is good in that spot. So we might as well mark it. Next bloke that ever pulls this apart, he'll go, oh, I wonder where it was. I didn't realise this was an aftermarket one. Yeah, and then if they put it in a different position, you don't get the best possible mark. But anyway, it don't take much effort to do it properly. So that's all you do.
So now you know where to put it.
Permanently got a mark on it, hasn't it, for the rest of its lifetime.
Yep. So now this non-hunting gear set
That's right.
has timed.
The 3 thou centred in the mesh, and they broadened the mark up. See that? It's broadened it up. It's even favouring fractionally into mesh, which is better. It's only going to ever move out of mesh, isn't it? With the bearings fractionally wearing and losing the preload. But
Yeah.
it's minute. Maybe 1 thou at the most. It's good. Had about 8 or 9 thou backlash is what you want. So anyway, we can finish that off when the O-rings come. They supply all this stuff with no O-rings for the pinion housing.
Wonder why.
The other thing you're going to check when we get this together with the new rear bearings, how true that face is.
Yeah.
I've seen these 9 inches run out of true. The 6 or 8 thou there. I've even put them in the lathe between centres and locked that with a bolt. Put it in the lathe. Put a bolt out, put the centre in here. Make sure it's running true. And a drive dog and face that down so that it's true. And when you hold that in the vise and put a clock on there, it's within half an hour. But anyway, all that shit could have been made longer. Where's me vernier? I had a vernier somewhere around there.
Anyway, I'll get you one. There's a bunch of them up here. These are good ones. Oh. Here comes Nathan.
This vernier, it's about 980 thou from memory. See, 980. The other one measured 1 inch, 138. So it's about 150 longer, see? Which, that's how it should have been. You just got to make it how it should be, not how close enough it should be.
Yeah.
Don't want any. You don't get paid for mistakes here. That's why you never marry a girlfriend.
Ah!
Jeff, you need some new material, mate.
Now.
All right, and I'll just. Right, here's a rule. It's a millimetre thick, this rule. See that pilot out, that weakness has been machined into the pilot area. The crown wheel was never ever going to touch the whole casting. This is the weakest part of the diff. It's been known to crack there and crack at the top since Christ was a boy. Now, why would you want to machine a weakness inside of the part that's already prone to being the weakest link in the chain? Can anyone explain that to me? I'm dumbfounded why they'd machine that in there, leaving only a 1.5 mil of wall where it would break into the pilot bearing diameter. There was no need to do it. There must be a lot of viewers out there who've got some comments about that. Is this just a mistake? Or what? We're never even going to touch the outside diameter of the casting. This is a 3:5 ratio, 10:35. We're never ever going to touch it. It's a 3 mil or 1/8 of an inch away. Look, it's 1 mil wide, this rule. I can move it a couple of mil. There's miles of clearance. Why they done that is beyond me. I can't work it out. I'm dumbfounded. Torch don't like switching off or something. Yeah, dumbfounded.